Hello chums, and welcome to Taming a Monster, the series where I take some of Gran Turismo 7's most ridiculous cars to see if I can tweak them so that a talentless pleb like me can handle them without being killed to death. Like any common ruffian, I'm using a bog standard PlayStation 5 controller, and I have all driver assists turned off, except for ABS. Let's see what car is trying to murder me today! Today, I have the displeasure of driving the single most powerful front-wheel drive car in Gran Turismo 7. The last time I actually used this car was in Gran Turismo 6, and let's just say I didn't really have much of a reason to go back to it. I was tempted to not bother creating a livery for this weirdly shaped mistake, but then the thumbnail wouldn't have looked very good now, would it? The GT-R LM has the few upgrades available fitted, and other than that, every setting is as it comes out of the box. There are no options for aero parts or different wheel sizes, so there are no visual changes that will affect the performance. Let's see how the front wheels handle 1000 horsepower and hybrid assistance. I created a custom race at the De La Sarthe circuit to test the car out. Unsurprisingly, the car will wheel spin to well over 100 miles per hour, and with the hybrid assistance, over 150 miles per hour. Despite this, the car makes up for it with very high levels of downforce, as well as obscenely powerful brakes. Learn to drive, you idiot! It was also fairly easy to control, as long as you're careful with the accelerator coming out of corners. My first change was to the gear ratios. Since the car was spinning its wheels in third gear, I massively increased the top speed, which allows you to extend first gear more than if you leave the top speed slider alone. From there, it was a case of closing up all of the subsequent gears. While the wheel spin is no different, the car feels better to drive nonetheless, since it's mainly spinning its wheels in first and second instead of third. Beyond that, it's still much the same as before. The car struggles to put its power through the front tyres, and it feels slightly numb. The next set of changes were aimed at improving the car's agility. Reducing initial torque helps the car turn more, increasing acceleration sends more power to the outside wheel when accelerating out of a corner, and decreasing braking sensitivity will make the brakes feel even sharper. The car has a lot of rear toe in, which usually results in understeer, so I reduced it. I then reduced natural frequency at the front, since such high numbers would usually make the car more unsettled by any bumps or curbs. Rear frequency was increased to match. I also increased the rear anti-roll bars, which usually makes the front-wheel drives feel less prone to understeer. Back on track, the car felt much more willing to turn, however the car was now too responsive at high speeds. Whilst it was still controllable for the most part, there are situations where the car could easily snap, for example when an opponent brakes earlier than expected. Swerving to avoid them resulted in a little bit of a shunt. Oh god! Ow. The reason for this is fairly simple. For some reason, the stock setup on this car has more downforce at the front than at the rear. I'm guessing this was done to reduce understeer or improve responsiveness at high speed. The rest of the setup was geared towards understeer to compensate, so I have effectively reversed it. My previous suspension tweaks will help the car more in lower speed corners, but the downforce needs to be increased to compensate. I also experimented with some front ballast to see if it helped. High-speed stability was now much improved and the car felt completely on rails. Meanwhile, the ballast weight improved traction out of low-speed corners. That meant it was time to go to the Nurburgring as usual. I ran a few tests with varying levels of ballast weight over the front axle to find the happy medium. In the end, I found 150 kilos suited me best, though you can quite happily run this car with none or more. The brakes in Group 1 cars are so good that adding weight doesn't negatively affect braking distances too much, and the extra traction was very handy on the low-speed corners, of which the Nordschleife has many. So the question here is not whether the long boy GT-R can beat the rest of the leaderboard, because it will easily sail past anything the road cars are capable of. The question will be how much it beats the Gallardo currently in first position by. Almost none of the road cars in Gran Turismo 7 can compete with the downforce and braking performance of a Le Mans prototype, even if it is front-wheel drive. As the lap progresses, the car's hybrid assistance mostly runs out of charge, making the car even easier to drive, though to be fair, the LM Nismo is nowhere near as bad as I thought it would be. The comments I had requesting this front-wheel drive blunder had me thinking that it would be completely undrivable. However, I can completely understand how this would be by far the worst Group 1 car. It's at too much of a disadvantage when compared to all of its rivals in the same class. However, when you're used to road cars like me, it feels just fine. While it took some getting used to the speeds this car can carry, I was still overly cautious in some areas, so a better driver than me should easily be able to shave off another 5 or 10 seconds from whatever my eventual lap time would be. In the end, the front-wheel die Nissan managed a 5 minutes 40-second lap, just under 20 seconds ahead of the Gallardo, easily topping the leaderboard. So, that was my attempt to tame a monster. I hope my settings helped, or that you enjoyed this video. Join me next time where I try to tame the engine-swapped Mercedes-Benz 190e. Thank you very much for watching, and if you're feeling particularly generous, I would greatly appreciate your subscription. Take care, and ta-ra!